The sound of fireworks explodes. Everyone stares wide-eyed at the sky. It was the anniversary celebration of Michael Williams' company, the same day that 3 years earlier a terrible car accident had left Michael paraplegic and his wife severely injured. Sarah didn't survive the complications in the following months, leaving 2 twin girls of only 4 years old in the care of their father and Aunt Jennifer. The thunderous sound of fireworks echoed across the Manhattan skyline, while employees and clients celebrated the success of Williams' construction. Jennifer watched everything with a critical eye, nervously adjusting her pearl necklace. "I don't know why you insisted on this pompous celebration, Michael," she commented to her brother, "especially today." Michael, in his wheelchair, adjusted his tie. "Life must go on, Jennifer. Sarah would have wanted that." It was that night that Michael made the decision to start completely over. He needed to reconnect with his daughters and regain control of his own life. The first step would be to find a new nanny, someone who would bring light back to his somber home. 3 years had passed since that tragedy. The summer sun in Brooklyn mercilessly punished the streets while Emily Foster walked hurriedly with her 3-year-old daughter Lily, affectionately called Lily. The small one-bedroom apartment they rented became increasingly difficult to maintain since David, her husband, had died 2 years earlier in a workplace accident. The bills piling up on the kitchen table were a constant reminder of their precarious situation. "Mommy, I'm thirsty," Lily asked. Her brown curls stuck to her forehead with sweat. "We're almost home, my love," Emily replied, adjusting the worn backpack on her shoulder while opening the door to their modest but immaculately clean apartment. Emily saw the newspaper that the neighbor had slipped under the door. In the classified section, an advertisement stood out. Full-time. Nanny wanted for 7-year-old twins, residence in Upper East Side, excellent pay, accommodation possibly included. Emily's heart raced. The Upper East Side was one of the most elegant neighborhoods in New York, where elegant mansions stood behind high walls. Such a position would mean a much better salary than what she received at the diner where she worked 6 days a week. Taking courage, she called the indicated number. The male voice on the other end sounded formal and slightly distant. "Williams residence, good morning. I'm calling about the nanny position," she replied, trying to control her nervousness. After some questions about her experience and qualifications, the man, who identified himself as Michael Williams, scheduled an interview for the next day. When Emily mentioned she would have to bring her daughter, there was an uncomfortable pause before he reluctantly agreed. The next morning, after dressing Lily in her best little dress and grooming herself meticulously, Emily took 2 buses to reach the indicated address. The Williams mansion was imposing, with well-kept gardens and a contemporary facade with elegant lines. The security guard verified her name before allowing her entry. A middle-aged housekeeper, who introduced herself as Margaret, led them through the marble entrance hall to a spacious living room. "Mr. Williams will be down in a moment," Margaret informed. "The girls are in the playroom." Emily barely had time to absorb the elegance of the environment when she heard the sound of a wheelchair approaching. Michael Williams was younger than she had imagined, probably in his early 40s, with black hair that was starting to grey at the temples and intense blue eyes. Despite the wheelchair, his posture conveyed authority and innate dignity. "Miss Foster?" he greeted, extending his hand. His eyes briefly observed Lily, who was partially hiding behind her mother. "This must be your daughter." "Yes, this is Lily, but everyone calls her Lily." "Well, let's get to the point," Michael continued, indicating that she should sit. "My daughters, Emma and Olivia, are 7 years old. Since the accident that took their mother's life and left me in this chair, we've been difficult with nannies. The last one lasted only 2 weeks. Emily noticed the barely disguised pain in his voice when he mentioned the accident. On a nearby table, a photograph showed 2 identical blonde girls, with eyes as blue as their father's, with expressions too serious for such young children. "May I ask what happened with the other nannies?" Emily questioned. Did they give up? Yes, Michael replied simply. The girls can be challenging, especially since my sister Jennifer started interfering with their education. At that moment, the sound of breaking glass echoed down the hallway, followed by raised children's voices. Michael briefly closed his eyes, as if seeking patience. That's the sound of my daughters welcoming you, he commented with tired irony. Emily felt that this family was broken in more ways than the obvious, and despite all the uncertainties, something inside her said that these children needed her as much as she needed this job. When can I start? She asked with determination. Michael stared at her, surprised. Don't you want to meet the girls first? I'll meet them every day from now on, Emily replied with a confident smile. And I can guarantee one thing, Mr. Williams. I don't give up easily. The move to the Williams mansion happened quickly. Emily and Lily were installed in a comfortable suite on the second floor, close to the twins' room. The salary offered by Michael was 3 times more than Emily previously earned, allowing her to pay off her most urgent debts and even send some money to her parents in Ohio. The first meeting with the twins was exactly as Emily expected. Glacial. Emma and Olivia were physically identical, with blonde hair always perfectly arranged and penetrating blue eyes. But Emily soon learned to differentiate them. Emma was more serious and analytical, while Olivia, although equally reserved, occasionally let glimpses of a more emotional personality escape. How many nannies have we had this year, Em? Olivia asked when they were introduced, pretending that Emily wasn't even present. 4, Emma replied coldly. 5, counting this one. How long do you think she'll last? Less than the last one. She brought a crying baby. Lily, normally sociable and outgoing, shrank behind her mother, intimidated by the hostile environment. Girls, Emily said calmly, I understand you're used to seeing nannies leave, but I can assure you I'm different. I don't intend to go anywhere. The twins exchanged skeptical looks before returning to their activities, completely ignoring the newcomers. In the following days, Emily discovered the extent of the challenges she would face. The routine established in the house was militarily rigid. The girls woke up at 6:30, had breakfast at 7 sharp, studied with private tutors until noon, and had afternoons filled with scheduled activities such as piano, ballet, and swimming. There was no room for spontaneous play or displays of affection. Michael was rarely present, always busy with his construction company or locked in his home office. When he appeared for meals, the tension was palpable. The twins became even more silent and contained in their father's presence, as if they feared disappointing him. The first week was marked by small sabotages, salt in the sugar bowl, hidden pillows, Lily's toys mysteriously disappearing. Emily faced each provocation with calm and firmness, never losing patience. It was at the end of that week that Emily met Jennifer Williams, Michael's sister. Tall, elegant, and with the same penetrating blue eyes as her brother, but significantly colder, Jennifer appeared during dinner, analyzing Emily as if evaluating defective merchandise. "So you're the new nanny," she commented, her falsely sweet tone, while watching Lily quietly playing with her plate. "Interesting choice, Michael, bringing such a small child into a house that needs order and discipline." "Emily has excellent references," Michael replied defensively. "And so far, Lily hasn't been any problem at all." Of course, Jennifer smiled without any warmth. "I just hope you know what you're doing. After everything that happened, the girls need stability, not more changes." The way she emphasized the word, changes, looking directly at Emily, made it clear that she considered her an unwanted intruder. Later, when the children were already in bed, Margaret explained the family dynamics to Emily while helping her put away clothes. "Mrs. Sarah, Mr. Michael's wife, died in the same accident that left him paraplegic 3 years ago," she recounted in a low voice. "Miss Jennifer took control of the house while he recovered and never really gave back the reins. She has very rigid ideas about raising children, believes that discipline is more important than affection. And Michael allows this? Emily asked, surprised that a man who seemed so strong had yielded so much control. Margaret sighed. He changed after the accident. Before, he was a present, loving father. Afterward, it's as if he feared getting too close, as if he no longer thought himself capable of being the father the girls needed. That night, Emily stayed awake for a long time, thinking about the children sleeping just a few meters away. Children who tragically lost their mother, whose father was physically present but emotionally distant, and whose aunt confused discipline with coldness. No wonder they're so defensive, she whispered to herself in the darkness. But these girls need someone who won't give up on them. In the middle of the night, Emily was awakened by a strange noise. Security alerts echoed throughout the mansion. Margaret frantically knocked on her door. "Emily, quick! The security system detected a possible intrusion on the property. We need to take the children to a secure area." Emily's heart raced. She grabbed Lily, still asleep, and ran to the twins' room. Michael was already there, skillfully maneuvering his wheelchair. "Emily, thank God! It seems someone tried to hack the house security system. They're probably after the construction company projects in my office. We need to protect the children." Security sirens continued to sound. The mansion's security guards had already detected the digital intrusion attempt and were reinforcing the perimeter. In the security center, monitors showed suspicious movements near the back wall. "This way." Michael guided them to a false wall that opened, revealing a narrow corridor. "This elevator will take us to a secure room in the basement." The twins, now awake and frightened, held on to each other. To Emily's surprise, Emma extended her hand to Lily as well, as if protecting her. "Everything will be fine," Emily promised. The children, keeping her voice firm despite her own nervousness. The moment the door of the secure room closed behind them, they heard the communication system informing that the security guards had chased away the intruders and that the police were on their way. "Don't worry," Michael assured everyone. "This place is totally protected, and I've already called the authorities. We have communication and comfort here. We'll be safe." While they waited, the children, united by the moment of tension, grew closer than ever before. Lily, sitting on Olivia's lap, listened attentively as the older girl told her stories to distract her. Emma, always the protector, watched the door like a small sentinel. Emily and Michael exchanged glances. In the midst of that unexpected situation, something new was being born, a sense of family unity. After about an hour, the secure room's communication announced that everything was under control and they could return to their rooms. When they finally left the shelter, they found the house in order thanks to the quick intervention of the security guards. Detective Mark Johnson, a tall man with an imposing presence, was talking with Michael in the living room. "Mr. Williams, this wasn't a common break-in attempt. The suspects had specific information about your home security systems and were seeking to access construction company documents. We suspect it's an operation coordinated by your competitor, Richard Bennett." Michael nodded gravely. "I've had problems with him before. Bennett is worried since we won the bid for the new mall." "We're investigating," the detective assured. "Meanwhile, I suggest reinforcing your security in the coming days." That night changed the dynamics of the Williams house. The shared moment of tension broke down barriers between them. The twins, who previously saw Emily and Lily as intruders, now sought their company, especially Lily's, who with her innocence and joy brought light to the previously formal environment. After 2 weeks in the Williams mansion, Emily began implementing subtle changes. Instead of directly confronting the established rules, she found small gaps to introduce moments of lightness and affection into the twins' routine. During study sessions, she created educational games that transformed learning into something enjoyable. In piano lessons, which the girls clearly hated, she interspersed the mandatory classical pieces with more lively popular songs. Gradually, small smiles began to appear on Emma and Olivia's faces, although quickly disguised when they realized they were being observed. Lily, with her loving and unfiltered nature, unwittingly became a powerful ally. The twins initially treated her with disdain, calling her a crying baby, but the small girl's persistence in following them everywhere and her unconditional admiration began to break down their defenses. One afternoon, while Emily was taking the three girls for a walk in Central Park, something unexpected happened. She noticed a suspicious-looking woman discreetly following them. She tried to convince herself it was just paranoia, a sequel to the intrusion attempt weeks ago, but her mother's instinct sounded alarms. "Girls, let's change plans," she said calmly, trying not to alarm them. "Instead of going to the playground, let's first visit that candy store near the entrance." She guided the children toward a path, noticing that the woman accelerated her pace when she saw them change direction. Emily quickly took out her cell phone and sent a message to Michael. "Possible person following us in the park. Woman in purple blazer. We're heading to the candy store near the entrance." As they walked, she saw not just the woman, but also a man in a suit, both clearly communicating and maintaining a calculated distance. "Emma, all hold hands. Don't let go for anything," instructed Emily, her calm tone hiding growing concern. Emma, sensing the seriousness in Emily's voice, immediately held onto Olivia and Lily. Emily led the girls through the paths, making sudden turns, walking quickly between groups of people. The strangers persisted, trying to disguise themselves, but clearly on their trail. "Aunt Emily, those people are following us, aren't they?" whispered Olivia, her small voice revealing apprehension. "Don't worry, your father already knows, and I'm taking you to a safe place," replied Emily, squeezing Lily's hand as she walked beside her. She spotted a park security guard and was about to ask for help when her cell phone vibrated. It was Michael. "I'm at the east entrance with security. Head there now." Changing direction, Emily guided the girls to the indicated exit. The pursuers, realizing her objective, abandoned their disguise and accelerated. Emily's concern grew. They were almost running now, the girls frightened but following her with confidence. As they rounded the last bend, they saw Michael in his wheelchair, accompanied by Detective Johnson and two security officers. The pursuers, seeing they'd been discovered, tried to blend into the crowd, but the park security, already alerted, intercepted them. "Park security! We need to talk to you!" announced the head of the team with authority. There was a tense moment, with the strangers frozen in place, evaluating their options. Finally, they surrendered, being invited to accompany the security for clarification. "They're investigators hired by Richard Bennett," explained Detective Johnson, as the girls ran to Michael. Lily threw herself into her mother's arms, clinging to her. "He's trying to find flaws in our projects or some irregularity," said Michael, indignant. "But using children as targets of corporate espionage is unacceptable." "We'll file a police report and request a protective order," assured the detective. "This is harassment and will have legal consequences." Later, safely back in the mansion, when the children finally fell asleep after the day's excitement, Michael and Emily talked on the terrace. "You were amazing today," he said, his admiration evident. "You kept calm, protected the girls, found a way out." "I did what any mother would do," Emily replied softly, realizing too late the implication of her words. Michael took her hand, his intense eyes fixed on hers. "That's exactly it, Emily. You treat them as if they were your own daughters, without hesitation, without distinction between them and Lily. Do you know how much that means to me? To see my daughters finally having a maternal figure who puts them first?" The moment was interrupted by Michael's cell phone, the detective informing that Richard Bennett had been officially notified and that his lawyers were cooperating with the investigation, promising he would cease any form of persecution or espionage. "It seems we'll finally have peace." Michael sighed with relief. "We can focus on what really matters." Emily smiled, squeezing his hand comfortingly. "Yes, and now we can focus on what really matters, healing this family." One afternoon, during piano practice, Emily noticed Emma looking at Lily, who was awkwardly dancing to the music. "She likes it when you play," Emily commented softly. "She doesn't understand anything about music," Emma responded, but without the usual hostility. "She understands more than you imagine," Emily smiled. "See how her body moves in the right rhythm. She feels the music, even if she doesn't know the names of the notes or composers." Emma observed the little one for a moment, a thoughtful expression replacing her usual indifference. To Emily's surprise, the girl began to play a simpler and more cheerful melody, watching with evident satisfaction as Lily clapped enthusiastically. It was at this exact moment that Michael entered the music room, attracted by the unusual sounds. He stopped at the door, observing the scene with an expression difficult to decipher. Surprise, certainly, but also something that seemed like nostalgia. "Daddy!" Emma exclaimed, immediately interrupting the music and returning to the classical piece she should be practicing. The change was so abrupt that it hurt Emily. The girls themselves were afraid to show joy in their father's presence. "Don't stop," Michael said, his voice softer than usual. "What you were playing sounded nice." "It was just a silly song," Emma murmured, looking at the keys. "Aunt Jennifer says I should focus on classical pieces." A flash of something. Frustration, regret, passed across Michael's face. "Well, I don't see a problem in varying the repertoire a bit, as long as you also practice what the teacher indicated." The surprised look that Emma gave her father was revealing. How long had it been since he had given her permission to simply be a child? After this small breakthrough, Emily noticed other small changes. Michael began to appear more frequently during his daughter's activities, still awkward and uncertain, but visibly trying to reconnect. The twins, although still cautious, occasionally allowed themselves small moments of spontaneity in his presence. One night, Emily was putting Lily to bed when she heard a light knock on the door. She opened it to find Olivia standing in the hallway, hugging a storybook. "Did something happen, Olivia?" The girl hesitated, clearly uncomfortable. "I wanted to know if I could read a story to Lily before she falls asleep." Surprised and moved by the unexpected request, Emily opened the door wider. "Of course you can. I'm sure she'll love it." Olivia entered timidly. Lily, already in pajamas, opened a radiant smile upon seeing her. "Olivia! You came to say good night!" Olivia's formality melted slightly with the warm reception. She sat on the edge of the bed and opened the book. "I thought you might like this story. It was my favorite when I was your age." As the girl read, her voice gradually losing rigidity and gaining expressiveness, Emily observed from the door, not wanting to interrupt the moment. It was then that she noticed Michael stopped in the hallway, observing the scene with an expression that mixed surprise and something that looked very much like hope. Their eyes met, and a silent understanding passed between them. Something was changing in that house, slowly but surely. Later, when the children were already asleep, Emily found Michael on the back terrace, contemplating the illuminated pool. "Thank you," he said simply when she approached. "For what?" "For not giving up. 5 nannies before you tried and failed. Or maybe we failed them." Emily sat in the chair next to him. "Your daughters are wonderful children, Michael. They just need to feel safe to show it." "I noticed you have a degree in education," he commented, surprising her. "Margaret mentioned seeing your diplomas while arranging your things." "Yes, I graduated before Lily was born. I dreamed of opening my own little school. But life had other plans. Life always does." He completed, understanding. A comfortable silence settled between them, broken only by the sound of the night breeze in the maple leaves. "How was it before?" Emily finally asked. "Before the accident." Michael took a deep breath, as if gathering courage. "We were happy. Sarah filled this house with music and laughter. The girls were normal children, noisy, sometimes naughty, but so full of life. And after, I got lost, in grief, in self-pity, in the chair. I allowed Jennifer to take control because it seemed easier than facing the reality that I would never be the father I used to be." He looked at his own immobile legs. "I let this define who I was, not just physically." "It's not too late to change," Emily said softly. Michael stared at her, his eyes intense in the dark. "Do you really believe that? That people can change, start over?" "I believe," Emily replied with conviction, "because I had to do it myself when David died. Learn to be two people for Lily, mother and father. Find strength where I thought none existed." "You are an extraordinary woman, Emily Foster," Michael said softly. And at that moment, under the stars of New York, something new began to bloom between them. A mutual understanding that went beyond employer and employee, a connection based on shared pain and renewing hopes. The newfound tranquility in the Williams mansion was abruptly interrupted on a sunny morning when police officers surrounded the property. Detective Johnson, accompanied by other officers, knocked on the door with a grave expression. "Michael Williams," he announced formally, when Margaret led them to the office where Michael was working. "We need to talk about new information related to the accident that killed your wife." Emily, who was passing through the corridor with the girls on their way to swimming class, stopped upon hearing these words. The twins looked at each other, tense, their small bodies instantly stiffening. "Girls, go with Margaret. To the pool," Emily instructed gently but firmly. "I'll check on you soon." The twins hesitated, their worried gazes alternating between Emily and the office door. "Will everything be okay?" whispered Emma, slightly biting her lower lip. "Yes, dear, it's just a conversation," Emily reassured her, though her own heart was racing. When the children finally moved away, Emily discreetly entered the office. Michael had a tense expression, his hands gripping the arms of his wheelchair. "We found new documents and evidence," the detective explained. "The accident that caused your injuries presents concerning inconsistencies." "What do you mean?" Michael could hardly articulate the words. "The records from the maintenance company indicate that your car had undergone a complete checkup just 2 days before. We found suspicious bank transfers to the account of the responsible mechanic." The detective placed documents on the desk. "Someone may have deliberately interfered with your vehicle. Mr. Williams." The shock was like a physical wave that swept through the room. Emily instinctively approached Michael, placing a hand on his shoulder. He covered it with his, seeking support. "Who would do this?" he asked, his voice trembling. The detective hesitated. "The evidence points to someone very close to you, someone who would benefit from the incident and would have access to the construction company projects." Michael turned pale. "You're not suggesting—" "Unfortunately, we are investigating your sister, Jennifer Williams." The statement fell like a bomb in the silence of the office. Emily felt Michael tremble under her hand. "Impossible," he murmured. "My own sister. We have court orders to examine documents in her apartment and at the construction company," continued the detective. "Mr. Williams, as a precaution, I recommend that you and your family remain here under police protection. We still don't know if there are more people involved." He had barely finished speaking when they heard a crash, followed by raised voices coming from the pool area. Emily's heart froze. The girls! Everyone quickly headed outside. Michael maneuvered his chair with impressive speed through the corridors. When they reached the pool area, the scene they found was disturbing. Jennifer was there, holding Emma firmly by the arm, while Margaret tried to intervene. Olivia and Lily were hiding behind a lounge chair, hugging each other and frightened. "Jennifer!" exclaimed Michael, his voice loaded with shock and disappointment. "What are you doing?" "What I should have done 3 years ago," she replied coldly, "taking what is rightfully mine." "Ma'am, please release the child," the detective firmly requested. Jennifer smiled, a cold smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You don't understand. All of this should have been mine. The construction company, the fortune, the girls. I was always more capable than Michael. Our father knew that, but left everything to him because he was the male child." "So you planned the accident," Michael concluded, the realization of the truth evident in his devastated face. "A necessary event," Jennifer shrugged, "but the consequences went beyond what was planned. Now I'm just finishing what I started." Her eyes drifted to the pool, and a chill ran through Emily when she realized that Jennifer planned to take Emma to the water, knowing her paraplegic brother couldn't follow them. With a quick movement, Emily circled the pool, strategically positioning herself on the other side. "Jennifer!" she called, her voice firm despite the fear. "Think carefully about what you're doing. These girls are your nieces. You love them. I know you do, even if in a distorted way." For a brief moment, Jennifer's mask of coldness wavered. "I raised them for the last 3 years. While he was drowning in self-pity, it was me who gave structure, education. And they are grateful for that," continued Emily, trying to buy time, while police officers discreetly position themselves. "But scaring Emma won't bring you what you want. It will only prove that our father was right not to entrust you with the company." Michael's words hit Jennifer deeply. Her momentary distraction was all Emily needed. With a quick movement, she approached along the edge of the pool and extended her hand to Emma, who managed to break free and run to her. At the same instant, the police officers advanced. Jennifer, seeing herself surrounded, froze, realizing she had no way out. "Jennifer Williams, you are being detained for questioning related to the fraudulent manipulation of a vehicle and attempted misappropriation of property," the detective formally announced. "Aunt!" exclaimed the twins in unison, the confusion in their voices revealing the emotional conflict. Despite everything, she was still family. In minutes, the Williams mansion transformed into an investigation center. The police officers led Jennifer out, while others collected documents and statements. The children, still shaken, refused to leave Emily and Michael's side, as if fearing any separation could be permanent. That night, after the children finally fell asleep, all together in Michael's bed, at their insistence, Emily and Michael sat on the terrace, physically and emotionally exhausted. "How do I tell them that their aunt tried to kill us, that she's responsible for their mother's death?" Michael asked, his voice choked, unshed tears shining in his eyes. "With time and truth," Emily replied softly, holding his hand. "Not all parts now, but a version they can understand, adapted to their age. Mainly, they need to know they are safe and loved." "You saved Emma today," Michael said, squeezing her hand. "You risked your life without hesitation." "Anyone would have done the same," Emily replied modestly. "No, they wouldn't have." Michael sighed deeply. "Emily, when I saw you slide across that pool to save my daughter, I realized something that perhaps I've known for weeks, but didn't have the courage to admit." Emily stared at him, her heart accelerating. "I'm in love with you," he confessed, "completely, irrevocably in love. And I know it may seem crazy with everything that's happening. I'm in love with you too," Emily interrupted, the words escaping before she could contain them. "In a way I didn't believe was possible again." Under the starry New York sky, their lips met in a gentle kiss, loaded with unspoken promises and renewed hopes, a kiss that sealed not just the love between two wounded hearts that found healing in each other, but the birth of a new family, forged not by blood, but by the daily choice to love and protect. The following months brought both challenges and joys. Jennifer's trial was a difficult period for everyone. especially for the twins, who had to gradually understand the extent of their aunt's betrayal. But with therapy, constant love, and the unbreakable union they had formed, the Williams foster family found their way. On a sunny afternoon, 6 months later, Michael and Emily married in the mansion's garden, with the 3 girls as flower girls. Max, the newly adopted golden retriever, accompanied Michael, proudly carrying the rings in a small bag attached to his collar. "With this ring," said Michael, sliding the ring onto Emily's finger, "I promise to love you and Lily every day of my life. Our family wasn't born of blood, but of the choice to love, despite the scars we all carry." With tears in her eyes, Emily responded by sliding the ring onto his finger. "With this ring, I promise to be by your side in all challenges, to love your daughters as my own, and to build with you a home where everyone can flourish by being exactly who they are." At the end of the ceremony, when the celebrant declared them husband and wife, the 3 girls ran to hug them, forming a perfect circle of love and belonging. Max barked happily, jumping around them, completing the picture of the family they had become. "Who could imagine," whispered Michael against Emily's hair as they danced under the stars at the reception, "that amid so much pain and betrayal, we would find this, a family, a home, a new beginning," completed Emily, smiling against his shoulder. And as the soft music enveloped the guests, the laughter of the children echoed through the illuminated garden, living proof that even from the ashes of the greatest tragedy, the most beautiful new beginnings can emerge for those with enough courage to open their hearts and risk loving again. 5 years later, the main auditorium of the New York Cultural Center was packed that special night. Entire families, educators, government representatives, and journalists anxiously awaited the beginning of the ceremony. On the stage, banners in shades of blue and white announced National Inclusion Award, recognizing transformative projects. Backstage, Emily Williams Foster adjusted Michael's tie while he nervously reviewed his speech. "Stop fidgeting with the cards," she laughed softly. "You know this project better than anyone. Speak from the heart." Michael smiled, putting the cards in his jacket pocket. "It's hard to believe we started with just 1 ramp, and now we're here, about to receive a national award." "Next time, it'll be an international award," teased Emma, now 12, adjusting her own formal dress. Beside her, Olivia and Lily, at 12 and 8 years old respectively, helped organize the small model that would be revealed during the presentation. The Accessible for All project had begun as a modest initiative by Williams Construction, adapting beaches and parks in New York for people with reduced mobility. In 5 years, it had expanded to more than 20 American cities, transforming not just physical spaces, but also raising awareness in communities about the importance of inclusion. "Have you seen who's in the front row?" whispered Olivia, peeking through the curtain. "The Secretary of Education and the Governor. Dad's going to speak to really important people." "But the most important people are already here on this stage," replied Michael, pulling his 3 daughters close. "You are my greatest inspiration." The moment was interrupted by the announcer calling the family to the stage. When Michael maneuvered his chair to the front of the auditorium, followed by Emily and the girls, the audience erupted in applause. Under the spotlights, Michael began his speech. 8 years ago, an accident changed my life forever. I lost the ability to walk, and for a long time, I also lost hope. But then," he looked at Emily with a knowing smile, "then I met someone who taught me that our limitations don't define who we are." As he spoke about the project, the screens around the stage showed images of children in wheelchairs playing on the beach with adapted equipment, elderly people with reduced mobility participating in outdoor activities, and entire communities engaged in making their spaces more accessible. The real prize isn't this trophy, Michael concluded, but knowing that we're building a world where everyone has the right to live fully, regardless of their physical limitations. A world where my wheelchair doesn't prevent me from playing on the beach with my daughters. After the ceremony, while receiving congratulations from guests, an elegant woman approached discreetly. Jennifer Williams, now with shorter hair and a more serene expression, smiled timidly. It was an inspiring speech, Michael. The girls, initially tense upon seeing their aunt, relaxed when Emily enveloped them with a protective but welcoming arm. "Thank you for coming, Jennifer," Michael replied sincerely. "It means a lot to us." The relationship with Jennifer had evolved carefully over the years. After serving her reduced sentence for cooperation with justice and undergoing intense psychological treatment, she had found her own path to redemption, working with social projects in Boston. Visits to her nieces were supervised and carefully planned, but gradually became less tense. "Aunt Jennifer, do you want to see our new project for the school?" Emma asked hesitantly, surprising everyone. "We're adapting the playground for children with different needs." A glow of genuine emotion illuminated Jennifer's eyes. "I'd love to see it." As the girls proudly showed their drawings to their aunt, Emily and Michael exchanged significant looks. The path of forgiveness was long and complex, but each small step counted. Later that night, after the children finally fell asleep, exhausted but happy, Michael and Emily sat on the terrace of their new home. Smaller than the old mansion, but infinitely more welcoming, specially designed to meet Michael's mobility needs without looking institutional or clinical. "You know what I thought today, seeing you on stage?" Emily asked, serving 2 glasses of wine. "That I should have trimmed my beard." Michael joked. "No," she laughed, sitting beside him. "I thought about the Emily from 8 years ago, that desperate young widow looking for a job, walking into that intimidating mansion. If someone had told me that day everything that would happen, you would have run away," Michael completed, taking her hand. "Probably," Emily agreed. "But then I would have missed the greatest adventure of my life." "Adventure? I like that term to define our family." Emily leaned in to kiss him softly. "And the adventure is just beginning. I received a call today from the adoption agency." Michael's eyes widened. "You mean—" "Yes," Emily confirmed, emotional. "Little Ryan, that boy with cerebral palsy we visited at the shelter last month. We've been approved to adopt him. We can pick him up in 2 weeks." A mixture of surprise, joy, and emotion took hold of Michael. A year ago, after a visit from Emily's school to a local shelter, the family had begun to consider the possibility of expanding through adoption. When they met Ryan, a 4-year-old boy with cerebral palsy who had been abandoned by his biological parents, they felt an immediate connection. "Do the girls know yet?" asked Michael, discreetly wiping away a tear. "No. I thought we could tell them together at breakfast tomorrow. I can already imagine Lily's reaction. She's always asking for a little brother." Michael pulled Emily closer, hugging her with all the strength his arms allowed. "Thank you," he whispered against her. "Air? For what?" "For showing me that our capacity to love is infinite, that there's always room for more, that our family is not defined by limitations, but by possibilities." Emily smiled against his shoulder, feeling the same quiet certainty that had accompanied her since the day she promised not to give up on the twins. That certainty that, no matter what challenges came, facing them together was what made them stronger. On the New York horizon, the city lights twinkled like earthly stars, while the sounds of traffic hummed their eternal song. The night breeze carried the scent of possibilities, and the night embraced the house where 3 girls, and soon a boy, slept safe, protected by the unconditional love of parents who had learned that the most beautiful families are not necessarily those born of blood, but those forged by the daily choice to love despite scars, imperfections, and challenges. The adventure of the Williams Foster family was just beginning. The Brooklyn Community Center auditorium buzzed with excitement as people filed in for the evening's event. A large banner hung across the stage. Barriers to bridges. 10 years of accessible for all. Behind the curtain, 20-year-old Emma Williams Foster adjusted the microphone stand while her twin sister Olivia checked the slideshow one final time. Both were home from college for the summer, Emma studying architecture at MIT with a focus on universal design, and Olivia pursuing a degree in psychology at NYU. "Is Dad nervous?" Olivia asked, glancing toward the side of the stage where Michael sat in his wheelchair, reviewing note cards while Emily straightened his tie. "When is Dad ever nervous about speaking?" Emma laughed. "He's been doing this for a decade." "This one's different, though," Lily pointed out. The 16-year-old had blossomed into a confident young woman with her mother's warm brown eyes and a talent for photography that had already won her several student competitions. "It's impersonal. Our whole family journey is part of the presentation." Ryan, now 13 and entering his growth spurt, wheeled over to join them. Though his cerebral palsy affected his mobility, years of physical therapy had strengthened his upper body considerably. He had recently begun competing in junior wheelchair basketball, showing remarkable talent. "I practiced my part all week," he said, his speech much clearer than it had been years ago. "I'm not going to mess up. Even if you did, it wouldn't matter," Olivia reassured him, ruffling his hair affectionately. "Tonight is about celebrating, not being perfect." The Williams Foster family had come a long way in 10 years. What had begun as Michael's personal mission to make parks and beaches accessible had grown into a national foundation with offices in 12 cities. Emily's inclusive preschool had expanded to 3 locations across Brooklyn, becoming a model for similar programs around the country. The two had become recognized advocates for accessible design and inclusive education, frequently speaking at conferences and consulting on major projects. But tonight wasn't about their professional achievements. Tonight was about the personal journey, a family formed not by blood, but by choice, overcoming tragedy to build something beautiful and meaningful. "Places everyone," called the event coordinator. "We're starting in 5 minutes." The family gathered in their pre-show huddle, a tradition that had begun years ago, before Ryan's first piano recital, when his nerves had threatened to overwhelm him. "Hands in," Michael instructed, and 7 hands stacked together in the center. Michael and Emily, the twins, Lily, Ryan, and Jennifer, who had become an integral part of their family unit after years of healing and redemption. "Remember what matters," Emily said, their traditional opening words. "Love," they replied in unison. "Courage," added Olivia. "Growth," said Emma. "Forgiveness," Jennifer said softly. "Family," Ryan contributed. "And possibility," Lily finished. "Williams Foster's on 3, Michael concluded. 1, 2, 3. "Williams Foster's," they cheered, breaking the huddle as the curtain began to rise. The presentation that followed was unlike any they had given before. Instead of focusing solely on statistics or architectural innovations, this was their story, raw, honest, and powerful. Michael began by recounting the accident that had changed everything, showing a photo of himself. In the early days after losing Sarah, withdrawn and lost in grief, Emily spoke about her own journey as a struggling widow, and how answering a classified ad had changed not just her economic circumstances, but her entire life path. The twins shared what it was like growing up in the shadow of tragedy and how Emily's arrival had slowly brought light back into their home. Lily talked about finding sisters in Emma and Olivia, while Ryan's segment about being welcomed into their family left hardly a dry eye in the audience. Jennifer's part was perhaps the most difficult, acknowledging her past actions and the damage she had caused, while also speaking to the power of forgiveness and rehabilitation. The family had debated whether to include this painful chapter, but ultimately decided that honesty served their message better than a sanitized version of their journey. "Our story isn't neat or perfect," Michael said as they approached the conclusion. "We've made mistakes, faced setbacks, and sometimes wondered if we were on the right path. But what we've learned is that accessibility isn't just about ramps and elevators. It's about creating a world where everyone belongs, where differences are celebrated rather than merely accommodated." Emily stepped forward to join him. 10 years ago, we were broken people trying to survive. Today, we stand before you as a family that has learned that our greatest strength comes not despite our challenges, but because of how we've faced them. Together. The standing ovation lasted nearly 5 minutes. As the family took their bows, Michael noticed someone familiar in the back of the auditorium, Dr. Alicia Chen, Sarah's neurosurgeon who had fought so hard to save her life all those years ago. She had remained in touch, sending cards on the twins' birthdays, but this was the first time she had attended one of their events. Later, at the reception, Dr. Chen approached them with tears in her eyes. "I've followed your work for years," she told Michael and Emily, "but seeing the beautiful family you've built, Sarah would be so proud. This is exactly what she would have wanted for her girls." That night, after the children had gone to bed, though the twins at 20 would protest being called children, Michael and Emily sat on their bedroom balcony looking up at the stars. "There were moments I never thought we'd get here," Michael confessed, taking Emily's hand. "When I was at my lowest after the accident, I couldn't imagine ever being happy again." "I know," Emily said softly. "There were nights in that tiny apartment with Lily when I lay awake wondering how we'd survive another month. And now look at us. 5 kids, 3 schools, a national foundation, and somehow we're still standing." Emily smiled. "Not just standing, thriving." "We should do something special," Michael said suddenly. "For our 10th anniversary next year. Maybe that trip to Italy we've been talking about." "I'd like that," Emily. "Agreed, though I bet the kids will insist on coming along." "Would that be so terrible?" Michael asked. "A family adventure?" Emily leaned over to kiss him. "Not terrible at all. It's been quite the journey so far." "And the best part?" Michael smiled. Emily finished the thought. Words they had exchanged countless times over the years. "We're just getting started." In the quiet Brooklyn night, surrounded by the home and family they had built together, Emily and Michael Williams Foster counted their blessings. From the deepest tragedy had come unexpected joy, from brokenness had come healing, and from 2 separate paths of loss had emerged a shared journey of love and purpose that continued to unfold in ways they could never have imagined.